Hey team, welcome back to the channel. So I wanted to do a video today about Airbnb and the IPO that's coming this week. And we got some actual breaking news today from the Wall Street Journal where they might actually be increasing their price target. So let's just talk about Airbnb, what exactly they do if you're not familiar, and why this might be a great opportunity for you in the IPO space this week, or alternatively, if it might be a risky bet. So that being said, let's jump right into the video. Now, because of the timely nature of this, I'm going to try and just go straight through without a bunch of edits and circling back, because I think it's important that I can get this out here as quickly to you as possible. So Bloomberg here is just repeating what the Wall Street Journal earlier announced. But if you look, Airbnb is looking at boosting the IPO price range from their previously announced $44 to $50 a share, all the way up to $56 to $60 for the final pricing. So what this could do is this could boost that initial valuation from the IPO from $35 billion up to $42 billion. So when you think about it, that's a 20% increase that they're thinking about baking in now. So what exactly does Airbnb do? Well, they're a technology company, right, that lets you book through hosts a place to stay. And so they compete directly with the hotel industry, and they also have experiences now, and they play in a lot of spaces. But the thing you probably know them most for is, hey, I can Airbnb. It's a place for me to stay. And typically, you think, okay, well, it's not like a hotel where you have a ton of people all in one crowded space, but it's more isolated. You have a little more privacy, and typically a little nicer, and you can find good deals and things like that. So Airbnb is really interesting because coronavirus has really hit the hotel industry hard, and everyone's trying to react to this. And obviously, it's hurt a lot of industries, but travel's been pretty dramatically hit. So that being said, we should think about what Airbnb has done to approach this, and then what they are planning to do in the future, what they can do, what kind of levers do they pull, or what competitive advantage might they have. So I was looking at the S1 earlier at their financial statements, and there were a couple of really interesting things that I found in here. So if you're not familiar with what this is, so the S1 is the filing they do with the SEC, the Securities Exchange Commission, to be able to file for this IPO. And so in this S1, they have their financial statements. So this is their consolidated statements of operations, or this is like their income statement. And so what this is going to show here is their revenue, the cost of their revenue, all the way down to their net profit or loss. And seeing as this is a tech company, you typically see net losses, and that's what you see here as well. But here's what's really interesting. So their revenue growth has been pretty consistent from 2017 at 2.5 billion up to 3.6 in 2018, 4.8 in 2019, and then this year, of course, travel came grinding to a halt, and things just got derailed. And so you can see here, this final section is for the first 3 quarters of the year, since that's the quarter that's already ended. So you're comparing 9 months to 9 months. So you can see in 2019, the first 9 months of the year, almost 3.7 billion. 2020, only 2.5 billion in revenue. But you can see they were aggressive in cutting costs, and by doing this, they were able to greatly mitigate the loss that they had. So you look at the full year loss for 2019, 674 million. This year they're up to almost 700 million through 3 quarters. But look at what they did. So revenue took a big hit, but they cut back on costs here. They, in particular, cut their sales and marketing expense dramatically. Why? Well, you don't need to advertise. Nobody can travel. So they cut this back. And, another thing, Airbnb has become sort of ubiquitous as like the Uber of travel. And so it has got this name association that has made it so that they don't really have to advertise as much. And a lot of people will find it organically through their search process or word of mouth. So they really have a benefit there. Now, obviously, they've incurred a few other things like restructuring charges, and we'll see here in the fourth quarter, there's going to be a lot of costs associated with the IPO, but this should bring in quite a bit of money from this equity raise. So it will be several $billions. So don't cry for Airbnb; they'll be okay. But what's really the opportunity here? Well, they've seen that hit in 2020, but there's going to be some pent-up demand from people who have been stuck in their homes. So once this vaccine is actually cleared, people start taking it, travel restrictions are loosened, and people who've been cooped up want to get out places, they're going to want to travel, see things, do things. And Airbnb is really uniquely positioned because I think a lot of that fear is going to still be there about catching the virus, about being around a lot of people and having to wear masks and everything. But with Airbnb, when you use their service, you're more isolated. You don't have to deal with a lot of other people. It's more private. You can have your family, friends in a larger group if you want to, but still be contained within your own smaller group. So I think there's a real opportunity there for Airbnb after the virus, after the pandemic, and when everybody's able to more freely travel. In the meantime, I think if they're able to continue to manage through this, then they'll come out really strong here and they'll hold that competitive advantage. One thing I've seen in other people talking about Airbnb is they really maintain a solid current ratio. So current ratio is their current assets with less than a 1 year time horizon divided by their current liabilities with that same time horizon. And so theirs is 1.6 roughly. So they're able to cover all those short-term liabilities 1.6 times. So greater than 1 is good, closer to 2 is fantastic, but right there, they're sort of in between the two. They're in a good spot. They have the money. They did a debt raise earlier in the year. Now they're doing an equity raise. They're holding about $5 billion in cash and cash equivalents. So they're not in a bad spot. They're going to weather this. And the nice thing with Airbnb, they're not maintaining a bunch of hotels and a bunch of properties and all these things. They're this platform to allow the host to do this. And so it's really a unique position within the whole hotel space. So I like where they're at. I like where they're going. I think it's a great long-term investment. However, that being said, in the short term on the IPO, now that they're looking at increasing the price, it makes me a little gun shy because a lot of the IPOs we've seen lately, you've seen that kind of spike and then the crash. And that seems to be pretty common. And the other thing too is you've got DoorDash in the same week. Are we going to have kind of this, back and forth on these two? DoorDash is sort of the opposite to where they've seen everything blow up, right, as far as revenue. Everybody's stuck inside, and DoorDash has just, shot through the roof revenue-wise because of that. And so you're seeing sort of the inverse. So is the excitement going to gravitate more towards that than Airbnb? I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. The IPO happens on Thursday. So I want you to leave me a comment below. Let me know what you think. Are you going to buy Airbnb on IPO day, or are you going to wait and see? Is it something you want in your portfolio for the long term? I really do think it's a good long-term play, but I think there's going to be a ton of volatility here when it first comes out. But the market has been really strong. We've seen all-time highs. It could hit and just shoot through the roof. It's really hard to tell right now, just because of how crazy things have been, where the underlying economy might not be as strong, but the stock market is just showing so much resilience. But make sure to subscribe and stay with me for the Bitcoin 30-day challenge. I already introduced that, but if you missed that, for 30 days, I'm going to buy $50 of Bitcoin every day, and we're going to see what happens at the end of that time period. So that starts on Tuesday. That's when my fund should settle with Webull, and I should be ready to go. So I'll be documenting that. I'll have a video for day one, and then I'll do weekly check-ins, and then a big long summary there at the end, going through the entire process of what it looked like. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for joining. I'll see you next time.